Why do some men after 60 look active and energetic as if they are only 50, while others barely move by 50? Why do some have shining eyes and straight posture, while others seem to have given up in advance? Many believe it is due to genetics or luck, but the reason is entirely different. Imagine an ordinary glass of water, just a few drops, a pinch of powder, and suddenly a small explosion occurs. Hissing, foam, reaction. It seemed like a simple game, but this unpretentious mixture could give the body what money can't buy, even the most expensive vitamins. Yes, it sounds strange, almost unbelievable, but those who have tried say of a second wind, how the body stops feeling heavy, how breathing becomes free, and confidence returns to step and voice. This is not a miracle or an advertisement for magical means. It is a small ritual capable of changing a man's life after 60. Imagine the morning of a man in his 60s. He looks in the mirror and sees not a young guy who once ran on the track, but a weary man with a dull gaze. And suddenly a glass of water, a few drops of vinegar, and a pinch of soda appear in his hands. Everything hisses like a small volcano, and in a moment he takes his first sip. Sounds too simple? That's the whole secret. But it is this simplicity that causes fear. Why can such an accessible means provide more energy than expensive drugs? What is hidden in this bubbling drink? The body receives a signal as if someone has flipped a switch inside. A lightness in the stomach, breathing becomes freer, and the most amazing thing, confidence, appears. The man realizes that not everything is lost. This small ritual works like a reset button. But this is just the beginning. Do you realize what will happen if you miss even a week? Have you ever wondered why some men at 60 look vigorous as if they are 50, while others can barely move by 50? The difference is not always in genes. Sometimes a small habit makes all the difference. And here enters a strange, almost amusing ritual. A glass of water with vinegar and soda. At first glance, it seems like nonsense, but it triggers a reaction in the body that has been silent for decades. When acid meets alkali, not just foam arises, but a chain reaction, like an alarm for the body, reminding, wake up. Blood circulates faster, the heart seems to get a second wind, and thoughts become clearer. Elderly people who know this secret often smile when asked, where do you get the strength for the dacha, fishing, and grandchildren? They are not in a hurry to share everything at once. They remember that in Soviet times, such recipes were quietly passed from neighbor to neighbor because you couldn't buy them at the pharmacy. And so the question arises, if this drink is so simple, why don't doctors talk about it? Why do pharmacies pretend that this secret doesn't exist? Imagine you forget about your morning habit with a glass for a week. At first, it seems that nothing unusual is happening. Time passes as usual, but suddenly a slight heaviness appears in the body. Days go by and you notice that sleep has become more restless, your legs start to ache, and energy seems to have drained. What is going on? The organism gets used to the boost provided by this simple hissing drink, as if it awaited a signal every morning. This is not related to age, but rather to the usual laziness of forgetting the ritual that keeps the engine in shape. And here, the real drama begins. A man who once felt this lightness cannot come to terms with its loss. He remembers that first sip, as if his body was filled with life again, and then comes the realization. Either return to the habit, or prepare for the years to demand their due. But there is another, sharper question. If the effect is so noticeable, is there something more behind it than just vigor? Can this drink influence male potency? The heart is the main engine of a man. When it starts to fail, no strength in the hands or posture in the back will save him. Here, a simple mixture of vinegar and baking soda reveals itself unexpectedly. It doesn't heal diseases directly, but initiates processes that ease the heart's work. It's like a rusty engine being cleaned and starting to run smoothly. There are stories of men who admitted, I thought I could no longer climb to the third floor without being out of breath. But after a few weeks of this ritual, they found themselves walking quickly again, breathing steadily, and that feeling of youth returned to their hearts. Not pills for an outrageous price, not complicated surgeries, but a simple hissing drink restores confidence in one's body. And now, the most interesting part begins. The man feels not only physical lightness, but also an emotional uplift. Suddenly he remembers that he can embrace his wife tightly, joke with his grandchildren, and regain control of his time. This is not just health, it's a return to oneself. But there's an important detail that few realize. This effect lasts only as long as you know moderation. Once you step across the border, what was strength can turn into weakness. During Soviet times, this recipe was shared in whispers. It was not published in newspapers, nor shown on television, but shared in kitchens over a cup of tea or a shot of moonshine. Why? Because all genius is always hidden from foreign eyes. People understood that it was unprofitable for the pharmacy for simple vinegar and soda to replace vitamins and pills. Imagine a dacha community. A neighbor in a padded jacket shares with another. Try it, drink it in the morning, and you'll see how much easier it becomes to work in the garden. And he decides to try it. After a few days, he notices that his back hurts less and his breathing becomes freer. But this story does not go beyond the fence. It's almost a secret conspiracy, a small brotherhood of those who have discovered this secret. And it is this mystery that gives the recipe an aura of legend. Not official medicine or advertising, but folk wisdom that has endured through the decades. There is no shine of pharmaceutical corporations here, but the strength of generations who survive not thanks to expensive drugs, but through simple remedies. However, a question arises that makes the heart stop. If this drink truly grants such power, why is it kept a secret, like a kitchen whisper? Is the truth inconvenient for those profiting from selling pills? When acid meets alkali, something more than just foam arises in the glass. It's a small explosion, alchemy in your kitchen. The hissing symbolizes the struggle of youth against age, fatigue against energy. And in this struggle, movement always wins. This is exactly what the body misses after 60, when metabolism slows down and the heart starts to work harder. Remember how we rejoiced as children when we threw baking soda into vinegar and watched the bubbles rise? It seemed like a game, but now it transforms into a key for an internal reboot. This reaction acts as an impulse that accelerates the blood, activates breathing, and awakens the cells. The body seems to remember that it is still capable of feats. At that moment, the man feels what can be called true masculine strength. Not abstract, but very real. He can once again carry bags, step outside, and do what was once difficult. A confidence grows within him, as if he has shed a decade. But in this phenomenon lies another side. Like any alchemy, it requires caution. Overdo it, and the miracle turns into poison. This is where the main question arises. Where is the boundary beyond which strength becomes weakness? There are men who start their day with the words, "Without this glass, I feel helpless." For them, the fizzy drink has become as essential as a toothbrush. It is not just a habit, it is a ritual that restores their sense of control over their own body. Think about how many people over 60 complain about weakness, heaviness, and constant fatigue. They accept it as a given, as if old age must be painful. And suddenly a neighbor appears, smiling as he digs the earth, as if he has more energy than the young. The secret is simple, but it is in this simplicity that the magic lies. When a man takes his first sip, he is not just drinking water. He seems to be making a contract with himself. I am still in the game, and this feeling becomes contagious. The wife looks at him with admiration, the children are surprised, and the grandchildren reach out to him because he is alive, real, and unyielding. But a strange paradox arises. Why does someone cling to this ritual like a lifeline, while others dismiss it, saying it's nonsense? I don't believe. And what do they lose by refusing to try? Look at the faces of men over 60. Some look straight ahead, with their shoulders back and a lively gaze, while others appear dim, with tired eyes and a hunched back. What is the difference? It's not just in age and genes. The difference is that some found a way to awaken life in themselves every morning, while others resigned themselves to aging. A hissing glass of vinegar with soda is not a miraculous pill, but serves as an important signal. It seems to say to the body, "You are still capable of much." And the body responds. The cheeks become rosy, the breath steadies, the gait changes, even the voice sounds different, firmer, and more confident. The man no longer feels like a burden, and this is reflected in everything, from greeting the neighbor to the glance at the woman beside him. There is no magic here, only a small tool that can take decades off one's face and restore confidence in posture. People who have undergone this ritual often share their experiences. I felt like a man again, not an old man waiting for the end. However, another question arises. How much stronger? If it's so easy to regain confidence and strength, what else does this recipe hide that we are not yet aware of? In every yard, there is that man whom everyone looks at with envy. He is over 60, but he walks quickly, laughs loudly, and looks as if life is just beginning. There is another one of the same age, but with extinguished eyes and a hunched back. His steps are heavy. What creates such a chasm? The secret is that the first one discovered the source of energy. His morning begins not with a heavy sigh, but with a sip of a fizzy drink that kickstarts the awakening process in his body. He does not wait for nature to signal him, but actively takes it himself. The difference between them is noticeable even in the details. One eagerly takes on tasks, jokes, and makes plans, while the other looks for a chair to sit down, justifying himself with his age. And the saddest part is that both could have been in the first category. One took the risk to try, while the other remained in doubt. And so the question arises, striking straight to the heart. Does old age come by itself, or do we invite it by refusing simple ways to stay alive? The alchemists of the past dreamed of turning lead into gold and finding the elixir of immortality. Interestingly, men over 60 who discover vinegar and baking soda feel somewhat like alchemists. Their gold is the energy, lightness, and strength that return after the first sip. Imagine an ordinary glass on the kitchen table, bubbling with a reaction, bubbles rising as if calling forth. At that moment, the man takes a sip and realizes that he holds not just a drink, but his personal elixir. It is not eternal, but it is real. There is something magical in the fact that simple things we often underestimate can bring more than expensive medications and complex procedures. Just as alchemists sought wonders in their laboratories, men find it in their kitchens. But behind this discovery always lies a new question. If this ritual can so profoundly change life, how far can its influence reach? Can it restore not only strength, but also the confidence that men call true masculine power? What does strength mean for a man? It's not just muscles or endurance. It's the ability to wake up early in the morning effortlessly, to lift your grandson into your arms without fearing that your heart will betray you. This is the strength many feel after that hissing sip. It manifests not in blood pressure readings, but in the moment when a man first feels lightness in his chest, steady breathing, and confidence in his stride. He changes not only outwardly. Inside, the feeling awakens that truly makes him a man. He can joke with enthusiasm again, look at his wife as he did decades ago. And this is worth more than any medication. Real stories are full of such details. A man who previously struggled to lift a bucket of water suddenly realizes, I can lift too. He smiles to himself, understanding that life still goes on. But with this revelation comes a lingering sense of unease. If the drink restores confidence and strength, why do doctors almost never talk about it? Perhaps someone benefits from keeping men weak. Imagine a pharmacy. The shelves are filled with various boxes, each promising strength, youth, and health. But upon closer examination, it becomes clear that most of them only provide a temporary effect, while some simply drain money. A whole industry is built on this. Next to it is a modest glass of water with vinegar and soda. No advertising, no bright packaging. It does not bring profit to pharmaceutical companies, but it energizes those who dare to try it. And here, a conflict arises. Pharmacies are reluctant to share folk recipes, as there is no profit in it, and thus the truth fades into the shadows, as if it is being deliberately hidden. The men who discovered this secret often laugh. If it were sold in a nice jar, everyone would drink it. But the power lies in the fact that the recipe is free. This knowledge does not belong to corporations. It belongs to you. And here arises the main question. If the world of pharmacy depends on our reliance on pills, will simple solutions always remain hidden until we find them ourselves? But let's be honest. Any elixir of strength can turn into poison if we cross the line. Vinegar and baking soda are not toys. A little excess leads to heaviness instead of lightness, dizziness instead of clarity. It's like fire. It can warm or burn. There are stories of men who, hearing about a wonderful recipe, thought, if a little helps, then more will help even more. The outcome was sad. The organism malfunctioned, the stomach rebelled, and a return to doctors was necessary. Myths about harm arise, although the mixture itself is not to blame, but rather human greed for results. True wisdom lies in knowing the measure. A small dose is like a key that starts the engine. Big, like a blow to a mechanism. And it is here that the recipe becomes a test of character. If you can hold yourself back, you gain strength. If you can't, You pay with weakness. But one intriguing thought remains. If even such a simple thing requires caution, what will happen if other folk tricks that have allowed men to maintain their strength for centuries are added to this ritual? There have always been their own alchemists at the Duchess, old men who knew many simple secrets and never rushed for medicines. For them, the pharmacy was the last option. The first assistant was always in the kitchen or the garden. Vinegar and soda stood next to a jar of honey, garlic, and cranberries. It was there, among simple jars and bottles, that their own elixir of youth was created. You have probably met such people. He is already 70, but he works in the fields all day and steams in the bath in the evening without complaining of fatigue. The secret is that he did not wait for outside help. He knew little tricks that repeatedly restored his strength. This hissing drink became part of a whole set of folk practices. They drank it before work to make it easier to carry buckets, and afterwards to relieve the heaviness in their legs. It was not magic. It was knowledge passed down from generation to generation. But here is what is surprising. If ordinary summer residents were able to create a drink of strength from simple soda and vinegar, what prevents a modern person from taking this knowledge and turning it into their personal legend? Imagine a man who decides to try this ritual for the first time. He raises the glass, gazes at the bubbles like a small fireworks display in the water, and takes a sip. At first, nothing special, but after a few minutes, a strange sensation arises in his body. Lightness, as if someone has lifted an invisible weight from his shoulders. He moves through the room and suddenly notices. His steps have quickened, his breathing is steadier, a sparkle returns to his eyes that had long disappeared, and most importantly, confidence awakens in his heart. The very confidence that makes him believe, I can still do it. I am still truly alive. And it is at this moment that a new era begins. The man realizes that he does not have to surrender, that he has a simple and accessible tool to feel strong again. This hissing sip becomes a symbol for him, a symbol of the struggle not against old age, but against the habit of accepting fatigue. And the main question remains, which everyone decides for themselves, to try and feel it for themselves.